All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? Thank you for the oversight correction.
Big compliments of our court reporter down here, Ms. Clark.
Item 11A. This item was tabled on 6/14/2011. Request to approve an additional appropriation of funds in the amount of $113,268, budget of the Michigan Transportation Local Roads Fund, in order to provide sufficient funds in several accounts for the balance of the fiscal year, and consideration and adoption of a resolution approving said request.
Motion to approve.
Motion to remove from the table.
Support.
Motion by Ms. Vogt to remove from the table, support by Mr. Stevens. All in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? The item's been removed from the table.
Motion to approve.
Motion by Mr. Green to approve, support by Mr. Stevens. Any discussion?
Discussion, please, Madam Chair.
Ms. Vogt.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Mr. Neighbors? Any chance Mr. Simone's here with you? Okay.
Good evening.
Mike.
Can you turn the mic on?
I spoke with Mr. Simone after the last council meeting and told him that you were requesting some more information, and he did put together a little packet that I believe I have a copy of that was sent to Mr. Sadowski. I don't know if all of you have got a copy of it, but it kind of breaks down the complexity of the 6 funds and hopefully kind of explains to you how we came up with those numbers. So I don't know if you've had a chance to look at that.
I did, but what the question I was asking that still remains unanswered is if they're permanent employees, even though it's from a different department, why didn't we just take the money from that department instead of pulling it from the general fund, from the fund balance?
Hopefully Rob can answer that question.
Okay.
Yeah, I sure can. If Mr. Simone gave you, did you get his document?
I did.
Okay. Basically, what it happens is, like myself, I am budgeted 100% in my department, the controller's office, which rolls up to the general fund. Okay. But in this case, someone from Mr. Neighbors' department will be spread out amongst many different. We budgeted in many different departments, and there's 6. There's for major roads, and then there's 3 categories of major roads: routine maintenance, traffic services, snow and ice control. And then those same 3 categories are for local roads, okay? So at the beginning of the year, we budgeted that they would spend 3% of their time on local roads and snow and ice control. What happened is, because of the bad winter, they spent a lot more time on the local roads portion, and it was at 5.08%. So that extra time they charged to local roads, snow and ice. So we had to appropriate more money for that one item. What you'll see, I think this is the part that maybe wasn't explained to you. What you'll see is in other areas we had savings, and that would be in major roads, like in routine maintenance. Then not as much time was charged. What we can't do is we can't do transfers between major and local funds, so we have to keep those separate. That's why we had the extra appropriation of $116,000. Does that help?
Okay, so instead of taking the fund from the department from which the employee was actually funded and transfer that over to...
They're funded in 6 different areas. That one person's divided into 6 different areas.
Right.
Yeah.
And we put more into roads, the snow removal.
Correct.
I understand all that, okay?
Yep.
Is the money coming back from whatever department? It comes back to the general fund?
No, these employees, their time is not in the general fund. They're in the major roads fund and the local roads fund.
Okay. So we've already accounted for them in the major roads. You know, we're talking about $18,000 here.
Yep.
But and I don't dispute the overtime and what have you. My only point is, if we've already funded for this person over here.
Correct.
And now we're saying, nope, you worked over here. Okay? So we need to pull more funding over here to pay that person.
And that's why, yeah, exactly, and that's why
Okay.
we're here.
Why are we taking it from this department and putting it to this department?
We're not taking it out of where there was an underage, and that underage is in the major roads, okay? We can't do that. So what we're doing is we're asking for more money in local roads, and you'll see there'll be additional funds in major roads that we'll have to spend next year.
Okay, so we just, instead of taking it from major roads to local roads, we're taking it out of the general fund?
No, we're not taking it out of the general fund.
We're taking it out of
Local roads.
fund balance adjustment, 113,000.
I'm sorry?
The fund balance,
The fund balance, the local road fund balance,
okay.
not the general fund balance.
Okay. Thank you.
Are you good? Okay.
Any further comments from council members?
Madam Chair,
Mr. Stevens?
not to confuse things, because it sounds like they're settled, but I think what Ms. Boat was driving at was if somebody came from, say, the water department to work the overtime in the, during the snowstorm,
Sure.
the money that was allocated originally at the beginning of the year for that person, would that money remain in the water department? And would it, in fact, be an overage because they're now being paid from the local roads fund?
No, they would be paid out of the local road fund. So what you do is when they fill out their timesheet, they say, I spent my time in local roads on the exact department is snow and ice or whatever the case may be. So then they're spending their time, it's their actual amount of time spent in that category.
Okay, but their wages that were allocated at the beginning of their budget, if they're being paid out of local roads now, which is the local roads budget, wouldn't the money be wouldn't there be excess money in the water department now?
No, this is just overtime. So this is up and beyond their normal day.
Okay, thank you.
Madam Chair.
Ms. Comartin?
Thank you. Mr. Melza?
Yeah.
In the future, just to be even a little bit clearer, you know how it says fund balance adjustment, and where that comes in, and a lot of people think fund balance, that it's just coming out of a certain fund. If we have it as local road fund, we know specifically that that's coming out of the road fund. I understand that we are in situations where we have overages, and just based on the snowfall that we had over the winter, definitely we were dealing with a lot of that, and unfortunately it happened on holidays and peak times where we needed to get the guys out there on 24-hour shifts. So it was just dealing with the way the weather pattern was this past year. But it would just be helpful to see, a lot of times we get these account numbers and we budget for something. Sometimes we use it for unfilled positions within an employee's budget, and it's taken out of there. So just to get it a little more detailed and a little helpful, because this is not a line item budget, we're not seeing directly, where this is coming from to make up for the shortfall in another line item. Thank you.
Any further comments from council members? Seeing or hearing none, I'll call the question. Mr. Green?
Yes.
Mr. Stevens?
Yes.
Ms. Vogt?
Yes.
Mr. Warner?
Yes.
Mr. Sadowski?
Yes.
Mr. Liss?
Yes.
Ms. Comartin?
Yes.
Mr. Bacamino? Not here. Camp? Yes. The item passed 8-0.
Next agenda
Madam
item.
Chair, since Mr. Bacamino is not here and not available to vote, I think we need to excuse him, as we would any other council person who is not available to vote.
I agree.
Good point. Is that a motion to excuse Mr. Bacamino? Where did he go?
I have no idea where he is.
Here he is.
Oh,
There he is.
thank you.
Okay. Well, do we need to excuse you? Or do you want to vote?
Right back.
Was agenda item 11A, Mr. Barcamino?
Yes, I know. Use the bathroom.
Is that a yes?
It's a yes.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
And the item passes unanimously, 9-0.
Next agenda item is 11B. This item died for lack of support, 6/14/2011. Consideration and adoption of a resolution authorizing the mayor and clerk to execute contract for 22437 Cuttingham home demolition and new construction project with Platinum Development Corporation in the total amount of $153,250, ITB-W-8227.
Motion to approve.
Motion by Mr. Barcamino,
Support.
support by Mr. Green. Any discussion? Ms. Borges, since you're here? Good evening. Thank you for being here. I just wanted to know if you wanted to give, because you provided us some additional backup information, being that these original items, when originally addressed, died due to lack of support. In regards specifically to the 22437 Cunningham, is that the one with the mold? I apologize, I don't have my notes in front of me. It was the Rosenbush. Okay. Can you give us some background on the Cunningham location?
I don't think your mic's on.
Sorry.
Sorry. I actually did not visit the Cunningham address, but from discussion with the inspectors and the community development staff, the problems there are just multiple. It also has a mold problem, but the mold was not as extensive as the Rosenbush address. The walls were literally caving in up and down the hallways. The roof was falling in.
Well, rather than you having to describe the physical property all the way along, I guess I'm just looking at this is again through the home funding projects?
Correct.
And it's for the purpose of rehabilitating homes such as this rather than demolishing them?
That's correct.
Although...
This particular bid was for the demolition and redevelopment or rebuilding of that property.
That's what I thought. Okay. And just in regards to the backup that we were given on this chart, it says it was the third bullet point on the back of your letter dated June 22nd, for the approval of the construction contract.
Yes.
You want to just give us a little bit more information. At the end of the year 2010 grant year, $161,234 was recaptured?
Sure.
Meaning that...
Yes, as of last year at this time, because the funds were not utilized, we basically gave up over $200,000 or gave back $200,000 to the home program. And so